In this video, Simon Nicholls is going to take us through the process of completing the assembly of the 35mm print of the Terminator. This is just the last of the 6 reels to be spliced on, which is being assembled onto a pair of 6,000 foot spools.
So we've got end of the Terminator, second half of the Terminator print. So I've already put reels 6 and 5, so we're now going to join up reel 4. So just to double check that we're doing it in the right order, I'll double check the leader. So here we go, this is part 5 and the start of. So what we'll do is we will take this leader off because we are not playing it as a single reel and doing changeovers, we're joining it together, so bear with me.
So when this was screened in cinemas, presumably many of them would have done it with changeovers, which
Yes.
is why on so many prints you see a bit of damage to the original reel changes.
Yes, yeah, they get handled a lot more of course, and whilst you try and be as sensitive as possible, it's sometimes not that simple, and of course in some projection rooms time becomes an issue, and you just want to get the job done. I mean, I've actually been to some shows where the projectionist is making up the end of the film as he's playing the start of the film, so time is sometimes of the essence.
And when you're sat in the audience, you don't realise the stresses sometimes of being up in the box.
There is, yeah, and attention to detail, clearly, you know. And I think we mentioned it in previous parts of the video that there is it is time consuming getting a print ready for projection. So what we double check here is making sure that this is actually the right leader attached to the beginning of that reel, and you can see that the projectionist before me has cut it a couple of frames in, so we know for sure that that leader applies to that because it matches.
Right.
If it didn't match, it might be that the wrong leader has been put against the wrong part of the film, which again can happen.
Hopefully I've got it.
Good.
I'll come over this side.
The other thing that's always interesting is looking at the type of film stock that a print was printed on, and there's always markings up the side here. So this is Agfa, which is quite a robust film stock. It tends to hold its colour very well. With this particular print, it was made in 1984, which was about the time that film labs were making colour fast film, so you'll see when you watch it that the colours should be pretty much intact. Prior to that date, film stock wasn't quite so robust, and you can get fading of prints, so when the colour starts to go, and the print will end up looking eventually pink on the screen. Yeah.
Because low fade did actually come in bulk in 1982, but there must have been bulk stocks of pre-low fade stocks that the labs had to use up, hence 1984 was when the big switch was. Gotcha. Alright. So for those that don't know, this is what's known as a splicer.
Yeah.
This is a 35mm splicer, obviously.
What I try and do is peel the leader off in a way that doesn't damage the film too much. There's no easy way of doing that, but generally it works. And then as far as the leaders are concerned, to make sure when the film goes back in the right place we'll put the leaders back in the can of which they're...
Right, yeah.
So this is reel 4. So everything goes back in here. So that when we come to put it back in the cans, we've got everything that we need all in one place. So I'll tidy that up in a minute. As far as splicing the film is concerned, the most important thing is getting it in what we call rack. So if you can see here, every frame or picture on that film has got 4 sprockets associated with it before the next picture starts. If you cut it in the wrong place, what you'll get on the screen is the picture jump up on the screen, which can be corrected by the projectionist, but again is not very professional.
Bad form.
Bad form, and takes the audience out of the moment. So, splicing, film gets joined together there, splicing tape across there, just press it down, and then when we put this part of it down here, pressing on this lever cuts the tape and punches holes in it. Once we've done it that side, we'll turn it over, pop it in the splicer and do it on the other side just to make sure it's strong.
So it doesn't break as it goes through the gate.
Yeah. I always put a China graph on it so that you can actually find the right splice when you come to break it down again. Invariably towards the end of a film there might be several splices, and trying to find the one that's correct isn't always straightforward.
And because this is a 185 to 1, that China graph doesn't show.
No.
So it doesn't show on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see from here, one of the methods that projectionists in the past have used to identify the end of a reel is by using just Tipp-Ex around the reel join, which highlights it when you come to breaking it down. But I think there was several ways of doing it, but that's my favoured way anyway. Something else as well that I'm doing, which is quite important with an old print, is just checking as it gently runs through your fingers that there aren't any little nicks on the sprocket holes. Sometimes a film can have a little nick in it.
Yeah, it'll break.
And if you're not careful, that can go through the projector and actually tear the film. There's one there, let's just have a little look.
And if you had white gloves on, you might not feel it.
No, I mean, people, you see people in labs using white gloves. I'm sure there's a... Oh, actually, there we are. That's a little nick that's been repaired previously. I could just feel that going through, so it's worth checking just to protect the film, because if it does tear, sometimes it doesn't tear horizontally, it'll tear vertically, and that will take out a hole.
But what's that's interesting at this point, you can clearly see that the film has got the black mats in it. So anyone who's looking at this thinking, I want to see it open matte, it's not going to make any difference. No. Because it's matted on the print.
Yeah. That wasn't always done. Sometimes it was left to the projectionists in the projection room to mask it in the projector, but on this occasion, it's got a black mark.
And another thing about wearing gloves, actually, Simon, if you had gloves on, how would you feel if there was some grit in your fingers? Because you wouldn't, would you? So it's another thing. You might scratch the print.
I mean, you have got to go a long way to scratch a print.
Yeah.
And actually, a bit of hands-on, if you like, can actually protect a print rather than cause damage to it. So what we're going to do now is just slowly wind on the print.
And then of course at the end it's got to be rewound, ready to project.
Yep. But in this case, John, because the film was what we call tail out, we're actually rewinding it as we're making it up, so that's an extra bonus on this.
Right. Of course, yeah, this is reel 4. Yeah. Feel some more damage. Another splice there, is it?
See, I think if we'd have missed that,
It is actually a tear.
that would have potentially ripped in the projector. So it is, you know, with an old print, it is very important that you just try and catch these things. I guess it's.
Is this acetate or polyester?
This one's acetate, yeah.
So it's not quite the strength.
No. Polyester film came out probably early 90s. So that's probably enough there to
Save it.
from. So it doesn't need joining too much. There's another piece there, but just. So as I say, sometimes with gloves you wouldn't always catch that. Another one there. I'm just gonna. What I can do as well, where it's only a very minor join, a nick, is just very gently,
Just on the edge.
just on the edge, just enough to reinforce that from getting any worse. There we are, that'll hold out. So as you can see, although rewinding a reel can take minutes, with an old print, you really need to take the time and There we go. And that's now reels 4, 5 and 6.
Piece of cake.
Not as easy as slipping in a 4K disc though.
Yes, that's a very good point. Right. Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Did you see the Terminator at the cinema when it was on in '84?
Do you know what, John? I don't think I did. I think my first introduction to it was on VCR, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't that successful at the cinema.
No.
So, no, I don't think I have.
So I saw it at the Newbury ABC, and I can't recollect too much apart from how much I loved the film, but I think there was hardly anyone else in the cinema that day I went to see it. And so the first VHS I bought my wife-to-be at the time was actually the Terminator, and she loved it almost as much as I did, and today it's still one of her favourite films.
What a romantic gesture.
First VHS, the Terminator here,
Yeah.
darling. You know.
Got the start of the gate there. Hopefully sync up the little mark here on the leader, the little diamond, gives the projectionist an opportunity of syncing the sound correctly, although it's not absolutely crucial. That goes against the sound reader there, so there is separation built into the film where the sound is actually ahead of the picture. It's a sort of old school syncing issue that sometimes Mark and I have been chatting about. We can get with 4K, too much data going through the system, and suddenly something slips and the lips go out of sync.
It seems to be that the more expensive the player, the more circuitry there is, which means the more that it's got a process to get things looking and sounding perfect, and that can sometimes mean the sound slips, but shouldn't happen on a film once it's laced up, should it?
No. Everybody has their own system. That's probably just about right. That bar there is to stop the film if it gets tangled around the top sprocket. I generally just like to get back so it's just on the top of there. So as the film comes and goes, I don't know how you would do it, Stephen, but yeah. This little unit here can be quite important for modern film stock, which is on polyester. Polyester film was the latest type of film stock. This is a polyester leader, although the film print of Terminator isn't, but it just doesn't break, which is brilliant. It's more hard wearing, except that if something goes wrong, it's almost like wrapping fishing line round your projector. So the minute this sensor here sees something's not right, switches everything off before it can do any damage. So
and was that built into the Victoria 5 projectors, or is that
I think it's probably an add-on, wasn't it? When polyester film came out, and as projectionists were running maybe 6 or 12 screens, something went wrong. You didn't want the light burning, or, as I say, more importantly, the film.
For our photographs, it was a sensory projector actually being pulled across the projection room because the film wouldn't stop. It wouldn't break, so it literally just dragged the projector across to the cake stand.
I've heard horror stories like that.
Yeah.
That's true, is it? It's not an old wives' tale.
Oh no. Yeah, there's actual photographic evidence.
If it comes crashing through the wall here, we'll know there's a problem.
Yeah. That, I think, is one of the issues as well about training up projectionists today. All those things that we've sort of worked through and have evolved and we've got taught, to try and explain that to a new person, the different film stocks, that's polyester, that isn't, be careful, that won't break. It's just so difficult to give people the experience. So my advice is to anybody who's interested is find somebody who's running 35mm and sit next to the projector when it's running and ask questions and absorb it, and eventually see if they'll let you lace something up and go from there. But back in the olden days, of course, you'd be running maybe 4 or 5 prints a week, so you'd train up a new projectionist, and within a month they probably run now more what they run now in more than 5 years. It would take 5 years to get the same experience.
When we were away, my brother